Throughout the 20th century, Britain was shaped by prime ministers who led the nation through war, economic transformation, and dramatic social change. In this video, we're ranking the top 10 best British prime ministers of the 20th century using a clear, professional scoring system based on impact, not popularity. Each leader is evaluated across 5 criteria: domestic policy impact, how they shaped life at home through economic management and social reform; foreign policy and global influence, their role on the world stage; crisis leadership, how they handled wars, recessions, and national emergencies; long-term legacy, the lasting influence of their decisions; and party leadership and strategy, their ability to win elections, unite their party, and set political direction. With all 5 scores combined out of 50, here is our definitive ranking of the century's most consequential British prime ministers. Coming in at number 10 is Edward Heath, who served as prime minister from 1970 to 1974 and remains one of the most consequential yet underrated leaders of the century. Heath is best remembered for taking Britain into the European Economic Community in 1973, a landmark decision that reshaped the country's economy, diplomacy, and global identity for generations. Few choices by any modern prime minister have had such a long-lasting impact. His premiership, however, was also defined by severe domestic challenges, soaring inflation, industrial unrest, and the confrontation with the miners that led to the 3-day working week. These crises reduced his overall score, but they also showed a leader willing to make difficult choices under immense pressure. Firm, principled, and committed to modernization, Heath's legacy is complex but undeniably significant. His decisions continue to influence Britain's place in the world even today. At number 9 on our list is Harold Wilson, who served 2 terms between 1964 and 1976 and led Britain through one of its most socially transformative eras. Wilson's governments introduced sweeping reforms that reshaped modern British life, including liberalization of laws on divorce, homosexuality, and abortion. He also championed education, expanding access to comprehensive schools and founding the Open University, which remains one of his most celebrated achievements. On the international stage, Wilson made the principled and politically difficult decision to keep Britain out of the Vietnam War, resisting intense pressure from the United States. Though his time in office was marked by economic volatility, his commitment to social progress, opportunity, and educational expansion has secured his place as one of the century's most influential reforming prime ministers. Taking the number 8 spot is Stanley Baldwin, a 3-time prime minister whose steady, conciliatory leadership helped stabilize Britain during some of the most politically sensitive years of the interwar period. Serving from 1923 to 1924, 1924 to 1929, and again from 1935 to 1937, Baldwin guided the nation through economic uncertainty, rising industrial tensions, and the growing challenges of a changing empire. One of Baldwin's most defining moments was his calm and deliberate handling of the 1936 abdication crisis, in which King Edward VIII chose to give up the throne to Mary Wallis Simpson. Baldwin's measured approach preserved constitutional stability and helped maintain public confidence in the monarchy at a fragile moment. Though criticized for not accelerating rearmament before World War II, Baldwin played a major role in shaping modern conservative philosophy, promoting moderation, consensus, and responsible governance. His influence on British political culture remains significant even today. At number 7 is Tony Blair, who served as prime minister from 1997 to 2007 and became one of the most influential and debated leaders of the modern era. Blair reshaped British politics by modernizing the Labour Party, shifting it toward the center, and delivering 3 consecutive general election victories, a feat unmatched in Labour's history. Domestically, Blair oversaw some of the most significant reforms of the late 20th century: the introduction of the national minimum wage, large investments in public services, and the creation of devolved governments in Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland. His role in securing the Good Friday Agreement stands as a major achievement, helping to end decades of conflict in Northern Ireland. However, his foreign policy legacy is far more contested. Blair's decision to support the 2003 Iraq War significantly lowers his overall score, overshadowing parts of his record. Even so, his impact on British politics remains profound and enduring. Claiming the number 6 position is John Major, prime minister from 1990 to 1997, whose historical reputation has risen steadily over the past 2 decades. Often overshadowed at the time by party divisions and economic turbulence, Major is now recognized as a calm, competent, and quietly effective statesman. One of his most significant contributions was laying the foundational groundwork for the Good Friday Agreement. Major authorized secret talks with the IRA, helped establish early ceasefire frameworks, and built the diplomatic bridges that Tony Blair later completed. Without Major's patient and discreet approach, the peace process may not have succeeded. Economically, Major presided over a period of recovery and stabilization following the ERM crisis. Inflation fell, growth returned, and the groundwork for the stable late 1990s economy was established. He also pursued a constructive, moderate foreign policy, balancing relations with Europe and the United States. Today, Major is increasingly viewed as an underrated but highly consequential prime minister. In fifth place is Harold Macmillan, who served as prime minister from 1957 to 1963 and led Britain through a period often remembered for confidence, prosperity, and stability. Known popularly as Super Mac, Macmillan presided over a booming post-war economy, famously telling Britons that they had never had it so good. His leadership style, calm, reassuring, and pragmatic, helped restore public trust after the turmoil of the Suez Crisis. Macmillan also played a major role in reshaping Britain's global position. He accelerated decolonisation, granting independence to numerous African nations and acknowledging that the era of empire was drawing to a close. His Wind of Change speech remains one of the defining statements of 20th-century British foreign policy. At home, Macmillan expanded housing, supported strong social services, and maintained political stability during a period of rapid cultural and international change. His blend of economic stewardship and diplomatic foresight secures him a strong place in our ranking. Taking fourth place is David Lloyd George, one of the most dynamic and consequential British prime ministers of the early 20th century. Serving from 1916 to 1922, Lloyd George led Britain through the final, decisive years of World War I, guiding the nation to victory with a mixture of energy, innovation, and political resilience. His leadership during the war earned him a reputation as one of the most capable crisis managers in British history. Beyond the battlefield, Lloyd George transformed domestic policy with a suite of landmark social reforms. As both Chancellor and Prime Minister, he expanded pensions, strengthened national insurance, and helped lay the foundations of the modern welfare state. These policies brought new levels of support to working-class families and reshaped the relationship between citizens and the government. Although his later years in office were marked by political scandal and division, Lloyd George's achievements in wartime leadership and social reform firmly secure his place among Britain's greatest prime ministers. Before we move into the top three, a few prime ministers narrowly missed our final list, but still deserve recognition for their impact on 20th century Britain. Ramsay MacDonald, scoring 28 out of 50, was Britain's first Labour prime minister and a historic trailblazer. However, his decision to form the 1931 national government split his party and left a complicated legacy. Next is James Callaghan, with 27 out of 50. Known for his experience and diplomatic skill, he managed difficult economic pressures, but the winter of discontent critically damaged his standing and ultimately ended his government. At 25 out of 50 is Neville Chamberlain. He delivered strong domestic reforms, yet his foreign policy, especially the policy of appeasement, overshadows much of his record. Finally, Anthony Eden, scoring 23, was once admired for his foreign policy expertise, but the Suez Crisis dealt a severe blow to his reputation. Securing the number 3 position is Margaret Thatcher, who served from 1979 to 1990 and remains one of the most influential and polarizing leaders in British history. Scoring 42 out of 50, Thatcher reshaped the nation through a transformative mix of economic reform, crisis leadership, and uncompromising conviction. Domestically, she reversed decades of economic decline, prioritizing free market policies, privatization, and tight monetary control to combat inflation. Her clash with the miners' unions defined an era, weakening organized labor and fundamentally altering Britain's industrial landscape. In foreign affairs, Thatcher projected firm national resolve. Her leadership during the Falklands War restored national confidence and cemented her international reputation. She also played a key role in ending the Cold War alongside Ronald Reagan and Mikhail Gorbachev. Though deeply divisive, Thatcher's long-term legacy is immense. She reshaped British politics, redefined economic policy, and left a political imprint that continues to shape the United Kingdom today. Taking second place is Clement Attlee, Prime Minister from 1945 to 1951 and one of the most transformative domestic leaders in British history. Scoring an impressive 45 out of 50, Attlee oversaw a post-war program that fundamentally reshaped modern Britain. Domestically, Attlee's government introduced some of the most enduring institutions of the 20th century. He founded the National Health Service, expanded the welfare state, and implemented sweeping nationalizations across key industries. These reforms created a safety net for millions and redefined the relationship between the state and its citizens. Attlee also led an ambitious program of post-war reconstruction, helping rebuild a nation exhausted by conflict. In foreign affairs, he managed the early years of the Cold War, oversaw the independence of India and other former colonies, and helped establish NATO. Quiet, modest, and often underestimated, Attlee nonetheless delivered one of the most consequential governing records in British political history. Topping our list is Winston Churchill, whose leadership during the Second World War has made him one of the most iconic statesmen in global history. Serving as Prime Minister from 1940 to 1945, and again from 1951 to 1955, Churchill earned a near-unmatched score of 46 out of 50 for his extraordinary crisis leadership, international influence, and enduring legacy. Facing the full force of Nazi Germany, Churchill's unwavering resolve, strategic foresight, and electrifying speeches rallied not only Britain, but the entire free world. His ability to inspire courage in the darkest moments of 1940 remains one of the defining examples of wartime leadership. Working closely with Roosevelt and later with the Allied command, Churchill helped shape the grand strategy that ultimately secured victory. Although his domestic record was mixed, his impact on world history is indisputable. Churchill's leadership did not just defend Britain, it helped preserve democracy itself. And that brings us to the end of our ranking of the top 10 best British prime ministers of the 20th century. From Churchill's wartime resolve to Attlee's transformative reforms and the modernization efforts of leaders like Thatcher and Major, each of these prime ministers left a lasting mark on Britain's political, social, and economic landscape. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more history, politics, and world-changing rankings, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a new upload. And click the end screen to watch our next video, Top 10 Greatest Leaders in History, or explore another viewer favorite like Top 10 Most Influential Events of the 20th Century. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.